Guys, it's Marc Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, also known as Marc Zicree of Space Command, and today is Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, and that's him and Coretta Scott King behind me in a lovely, lovely photo that was taken of them. And I think it's terrific that Martin Luther King has a holiday. I think it's enormously deserved, and I'm proud that he was an American, and of everything that he accomplished in his all too short life. But today I'm going to be talking about why I think he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, science fiction writers of all time. And I'm going to make a case for this. And I've talked about this a little bit obliquely in other Mr. Sci-Fi videos, and here's the basic notion. Martin Luther King Jr., in his speeches, was positing a future that did not exist. He was essentially telling a science fiction story, imagining a future where one would be judged not by the color of one's skin, but by the content of one's character, where the sons of slaveholders would sit down with the sons of slaves, of former slaves, and sit together in peace and brotherhood. And in imagining this, in conjuring this vision of the future, of a future that did not exist, he was creating it. He was creating the possibility of that future in the minds of those who were listening to him and watching him and reading about him. And he pulled it off. He actually managed, through his actions, to inspire others to all pull together and create that future. And we're certainly not in utopia yet. We certainly are not to where we ideally should be. But it's very different from how it was back then. My wife Elaine went on the Poor People's March that Martin Luther King conceived of in 1968 and sadly didn't live to see, but she was part of a theatrical troupe that performed during the Poor People's March when the army surrounded Washington, D.C. and people were killed, and cops were driving by yelling out their windows at her, nigger lover. And this is what America was back then. And of course, those seeds of racism are still in a lot of the American culture, unfortunately, but it's still a widely different world. And science fiction can create a world of possibility. Science fiction can create a world that we do not yet have. And if people of goodwill come together, if they stir the imagination and the souls and the hearts of people, things can happen. I mean, I've said before that science fiction in novels and movies were where we first saw Black American presidents and female presidents too. We'll see what the future brings with that. But it's interesting because many visionaries are very skilled at creating narratives of the future, and it's funny because now we've been to the moon, we have rovers on Mars, and this seems just obvious. Of course, we would do that, but when you think about how odd that is, how unusual that is, it isn't a natural assumption at all. And when Ray Bradbury and Isaac Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke and Robert Heinlein were positing that, it took the scientists to develop rockets. But it took the science fiction writers to basically say, well, we can do something else with those rockets other than fire them at London and put nuclear bombs on them. We can put men on top of them, and we can fire them at the moon, and we can put robots on top of them and fire them at Mars and the outer planets. And when people start thinking about that as a possibility, there comes a point where it switches over from a story, a fictional narrative, a daydream, to where it suddenly becomes a possibility in the real world. And Martin Luther King made that happen in the civil rights movement, and the work is not done certainly, but he succeeded, and we are the beneficiaries of that success today. And we don't have a segregated South anymore. There are many things that have happened. There was a Voting Rights Act, and it's being eroded today, so we have to fight to keep those rights for everyone. But a vision of equality and of love is well worth positing. And it's funny because some negative visionaries are also in a way science fiction writers as well. Adolf Hitler envisioned a world in which Germany would conquer it, and in which he even visualized this capital city that would have these vast buildings, and he had Albert Speer design them. And he actually built a tabletop model of that vision, and that, of course, dream did not come to fruition. That didn't happen, thank God. But many writers, science fiction writers, have explored what that world would have been. In fact, here's a great book by Philip K. Dick called "The Man in the High Castle." That there it is. Yeah. And this is won the Hugo. And this is, for those of you who think you know what Philip K. Dick looks like, get a load of this. This is what he looked like when he was a young man. So pretty cool, pretty cool. There's also a very good science fiction movie called "It Happened Here," which posits the Nazis successfully invading Britain. I recommend that. There was a British TV show called An Englishman's Castle, again about Nazis conquering England, and of course Fatherland is a really interesting novel that's about what would have happened if Hitler had won the war. So again, these world leaders, these visionaries, both evil and good, posit futures, but fortunately, in the real world, good does triumph over evil at times, hopefully often. And Martin Luther King, we celebrate his birthday, and sadly he's not here with us. I wish he were, but we know what a hero he was, and what a visionary, and what a great science fiction writer who made the future come true as he saw it. So that's it for now. Happy Martin Luther King Day, and we'll be talking soon more about more interesting subjects. So blog, tweet, subscribe, share, do all the things you do, and we'll talk again real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.